Hey everyone, and welcome to a deep dive on something pretty amazing, gratitude. It's more than just saying thank you. We're going to really get into the science behind it. I've got some really interesting academic excerpts here. It's all about the latest research on gratitude.
It really is fascinating. We used to think of it as just good manners, but now research suggests it really affects our well-being, relationships, even how we deal with stress.
Yeah, isn't that wild? We'll be looking at how it's measured, the many ways gratitude shows up in our lives, and even some cool new research on gratitude in young people.
We've got a lot to cover. So, should we start by defining gratitude? How's it different from, say, empathy or guilt?
Yeah, that's a good place to start. I think for me, empathy is about understanding how someone else is feeling, and guilt is more about feeling bad about something you did. But gratitude seems different somehow.
You're right. They're definitely distinct emotions. Gratitude is that warm feeling of appreciation we get when we realize, we've benefited from someone or something outside ourselves. From an evolutionary perspective, gratitude likely developed to kind of encourage cooperation and reciprocity. It's like a pay it forward thing, prompting us to help others, even those who haven't directly helped us.
Right, right. It's like gratitude is built into human society, fostering kindness and connection.
Yeah.
I'm so curious about how's gratitude different from, say, optimism? They both seem to involve a positive outlook.
That's a good question. They both contribute to positivity, but they focus on different things. Gratitude is more about appreciating what we've experienced, while optimism is more about expecting good things to happen. It's like looking back with appreciation versus looking forward with hope.
Oh, I see. So gratitude is more grounded in the present. Okay, but here's what's really cool to me. The research says gratitude isn't just one simple feeling. It has layers.
Exactly. Gratitude can show up in a few different ways. It's like some people just have a grateful disposition, It's a stable trait, and they just naturally notice and appreciate the good stuff.
Oh, like some people are naturally more optimistic.
Exactly. And then there's gratitude as an acute emotion. This is like a sudden burst of thankfulness, like when someone does something unexpectedly kind for you. And then, we also experience gratitude as a longer lasting mood. It's more subtle, a sense of appreciation for the good things.
So it's like a quick burst or a long-lasting mood or even part of who we are. Huh. It's pretty complex when you think about it. That brings up a big question. How do you even measure something like gratitude?
Well, that's a great question, and it has led to different approaches. Some researchers use free response methods like interviews or open-ended questions where people just describe their gratitude experiences. Others use attributional measures, which is analyzing how people explain acts of kindness, like focusing on the benefactor's intention, the cost involved, and the benefit received.
So they're trying to understand not just what people are grateful for, but also how they see and interpret acts of kindness.
Yeah. And then there are what we call dispositional measures, basically scales designed to kind of capture a person's overall tendency to be grateful.
Like a gratitude personality test.
Kind of, yeah.
That's so interesting. Are there any particular scales that are important in the research?
One that's used a lot is the gratitude questionnaire, or GQ-6. It's given us a lot of insight into individual differences in gratitude.
Okay, the GQ-6. Can you tell me a bit more about how it works?
Well, the GQ-6 is cool because it doesn't just measure if someone's grateful. It measures the intensity, the frequency, and how many different things they're grateful for. And it's really reliable, giving consistent results across diverse groups.
Wow, really?
Yeah, from students to veterans, even across cultures.
That's fascinating. Makes you
Yeah.
wonder, if you can measure gratitude so well, what are the actual benefits of being a grateful person? Why should we care about getting more grateful?
Well, there's a strong connection between gratitude and well-being. People who are more grateful tend to have more happiness, life satisfaction, and positive emotions, and they report stronger social bonds and feeling more supported.
So it's not just about feeling good, it's about a better quality of life overall.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just feeling good. Gratitude is linked to what we call pro-social behaviors, meaning grateful people are more likely to help others and contribute to society.
Right, that makes sense. If you're feeling thankful for what you have, you're probably more likely to want to give back. But I'm wondering, what happens when things get tough? Does gratitude still play a role when we're facing stress or challenges?
No, that's where the research gets really interesting. Studies are showing that gratitude can actually buffer against stress. There's been studies with Vietnam War veterans looking at how gratitude helps them cope with PTSD.
Wow, PTSD is such a complex and challenging thing. How does gratitude even work in a situation like that?
It seems like gratitude helps people develop more active and positive ways of coping. Instead of dwelling on negativity, they're more likely to seek support, find meaning in their experiences, and focus on solving problems.
So it doesn't erase the stress, but it gives people better tools to deal with it. That's powerful. But can we actually like get more grateful? Or some people just kind of stuck with their natural level of gratitude?
That is the question, isn't it? And the good news is the research suggests we can actually cultivate it.
Oh, good. That's a relief to hear. So how do we do that? Like, where do we even start?
One method that has a lot of research backing it is gratitude journaling. It might sound simple, but the results are pretty amazing.
I've heard about that, but I've always been kind of skeptical. How does just writing things down that you're grateful for actually lead to, like all these amazing benefits?
I know, right? It seems almost too simple. But early research shows it can improve well-being, reduce health complaints, and even lead to more exercise.
Really? Wow. Just taking a few minutes to think about what you're grateful for can really do that much. Huh.
It's worth trying. There are other things, too, that can cultivate gratitude, like writing gratitude letters to people who've made a difference, or even gratitude visits where you go see someone to express your thanks in person.
Those are great ideas. It seems like there's so many different ways to bring more gratitude into our lives.
Speaking of connections, one area where gratitude really stands out is in our relationships.
Absolutely. Research has shown that, like, expressing gratitude to a friend, it can actually make a big difference in the whole relationship. Like, there's more willingness to talk about issues, more positive feelings towards the friend, and that sense of connection is, like, way stronger.
That's so important for healthy relationships, being able to communicate and feel connected.
Yeah. And it's not just with friends. Studies have found that in romantic relationships, when partners express gratitude daily, it actually leads to more relationship satisfaction the next day. Wow, so just taking a moment to tell your partner that you're grateful can have a real impact, huh? That's pretty amazing.
It is. Small gestures can make a big difference. And, research on gratitude is now starting to look at the effects on younger generations. It's a pretty new area, but the findings so far are promising.
Oh, that's interesting. What are researchers finding about gratitude in kids and teenagers?
Well, early research shows that grateful youth tend to be happier and more well-adjusted, just like adults. But it's trickier measuring gratitude in young people. Like, the scales for adults might not work for them.
Right, because kids and teens experience and express emotions differently than adults do.
Exactly. However, there have been some really cool studies looking at whether those adult gratitude scales could be used with kids and teens. And what they're finding is that some scales, with some tweaks, seem to work okay for teenagers, specifically those 14 to 19 years old. And for younger kids, 10 to 13, researchers are still working on ways to measure gratitude that are more sensitive to their development.
So it sounds like we're just starting to learn how gratitude works in younger minds. But the early signs are pretty encouraging. It seems like gratitude could be a valuable tool for helping kids thrive.
It's definitely a field that needs more research. Talking about all these benefits of gratitude makes it sound almost too good to be true. But is there such a thing as too much gratitude? Could there be any downsides to, focusing on it all the time?
Oh, that's interesting. Can we be grateful to a fault? Is there a point where gratitude could become, excessive?
It's a fascinating question. And while we need more research to really understand it, some experts do think there might be some potential downsides. In some situations, focusing a lot on gratitude could lead to feelings of guilt or indebtedness, especially if someone feels pressured to, reciprocate in a way that's too much for them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Gratitude should feel genuine, not like an obligation. And, life isn't always great. We all go through rough patches, and it's okay to feel those negative emotions too.
Of course. Gratitude isn't about pretending that life is perfect. It's about finding those good things, even when things are tough.
I like that. It's about balance.
Mm-hmm.
We talked earlier about how hard it is to measure gratitude in kids and teenagers. Why is that so tricky?
Well, remember, they're still developing emotionally and, mentally. Their understanding of gratitude is probably way different than in adults.
So using a gratitude questionnaire designed for adults wouldn't really work.
Right. Plus, younger kids might not have the words or the abstract thinking skills to understand gratitude well enough to answer those questions accurately.
So it sounds like researchers need to find different ways to assess gratitude that are more appropriate for kids.
Exactly. And there's a lot of cool research happening. They're using things like storytelling, picture-based assessments, and even just observing how kids behave to try to understand how gratitude shows up in their lives.
That's really neat. What are some of the main things they're looking at when it comes to gratitude in kids?
One big question is the role of parenting in fostering gratitude. Like, how do parents' own levels of gratitude and their parenting styles influence their kids?
That makes sense. It's kind of like the nature versus nurture debate. Are grateful kids born that way, or are they raised to be grateful?
Probably a bit of both, but the research suggests parents play a big role.
So how can parents help their kids become more grateful? What are some practical things they can do?
Modeling grateful behavior is key. Kids learn by watching adults, so if parents show gratitude both in what they say and what they do, kids are more likely to do the same.
That's like actions speak louder than words, right?
Exactly. And creating a family culture of gratitude is also really helpful. Things like talking about what you're grateful for at dinner or writing gratitude notes together can make a big difference.
I like that, making gratitude a family thing. What else?
Teaching kids to appreciate what others do for them, even small things like thanking the bus driver or the cashier at the store, can go a long way.
Right, it helps them see that everyone's connected and that even small acts of kindness matter.
And don't forget about storytelling. Sharing your own stories about times you felt grateful or when someone was kind to you can really help kids understand how powerful gratitude can be.
So it's like you're planting seeds of gratitude, and those seeds can grow into a lifetime of appreciation for the good things in life.
Exactly. And as they grow older, those seeds can help them really understand the importance of connection, kindness, and appreciating all the good in the world.
This has been such an insightful look at gratitude. We've covered so much, from the science behind it to the benefits and even the complicated parts of it. It's clear that gratitude is way more than just good manners. It's something that can really change our lives for the better.
I agree. It's been great talking about all this with you and exploring gratitude and all its, complexity. But as with anything, there are always nuances and things that need more research. Are there any challenges or controversies around gratitude research that we should mention?
That's a good point. With all this talk about how great gratitude is, are there any critical perspectives that we should consider? What are some questions or concerns that researchers are thinking about?
One thing that's being debated is whether gratitude could be used to manipulate or exploit people. Some people argue that it could be used to maintain power imbalances, which is something to watch out for.
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that before. Can you tell me more about that?
Sure. Imagine a situation where someone in a position of power expects gratitude from those they've helped, even if that help came with conditions. Or when gratitude is used to silence people or make them feel like they can't speak up for themselves.
So gratitude could almost be weaponized. That's a little disturbing. It shows how important it is to really think about the context, when gratitude is expressed.
Exactly. We need to be aware of these potential problems, especially when there are power dynamics involved.
So even though gratitude is a good thing, it's not like a magic solution to everything.
Right. Gratitude is valuable, but like anything else, it can be misused.
This adds a whole new layer to our understanding of gratitude. It's a good reminder that even with something that seems so positive, we need to be critical and aware of how it could be misused.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that research is ongoing,
Yeah.
We're always learning new things and changing how we understand even the most basic human emotions.
Yeah, it really is fascinating, how even with something so like gratitude, there's all this complicated stuff too. I was thinking about what you said earlier about how gratitude isn't always the right response,
Yeah.
especially in situations where there's been injustice or even trauma. It makes sense when you think about it. Focusing on gratitude in those cases could actually be I don't know, almost harmful.
It's definitely a valid concern. If someone's been through something really awful, telling them to be grateful might actually downplay their pain or even lead to feelings of self-blame. In those cases, what's really important is validation, support, and focusing on justice and healing.
Right. It's not about just slapping a Band-Aid of gratitude on everything. There are times when, other emotions and responses make more sense.
Exactly. It's about using gratitude as a tool for good, but also recognizing that it's not a cure-all. Sometimes we need other tools.
I feel like this whole deep dive has really made me think differently about gratitude. We've talked about all the good stuff, but we've also gotten into, some of the more challenging aspects of it.
And that's the thing about research, right? It's all about learning and questioning and refining what we know. It's a process.
Totally. And the more we learn about gratitude, the better we can use it in a way that's, both genuine and helpful. So where do we go from here? Now that we've really dug into the research, how can we approach gratitude in a way that's like authentic and actually benefits us?
That's the big question. And I think it starts with self-awareness. Like, pay attention to your own experiences with gratitude. When does it feel real? When does it feel forced or like a burden?
Well, we need to figure out what gratitude really means for us personally.
Yeah. And remember, gratitude is, it's a choice. We're not just waiting for it to happen. We're actively choosing it.
So we have the power to create gratitude in our lives. Yeah. I like that.
Exactly. And that means we can use gratitude in a way that that fits with our values and helps us thrive.
Well, this has been a really eye-opening conversation. We've learned so much about the science, the benefits, and even, the nuances of gratitude. It's definitely more than just a simple thank you. So to wrap things up, what are you feeling grateful for today?